Hello everyone, this is X Plus reviewing the iPod Touch in 2019. Before I begin, please subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you won't miss any new videos that I post on my channel. So what do I do with my iPod Touch? I use it as an offline storage for music, photos and games. It is so light, only at 88 grams. The compromise is that its battery life is bad given that how thin it is. It has a headphone jack, which is also probably why the iPod Touch is still called the iPod. Okay, can you tell me which iPod I'm having with me right now? It has been 3 generations and Apple has been recycling the exact same outer shell design. This is the iPod Touch 6th generation. The experience is so similar to the newer 7th generation model, so you can take my iPod opinion into account if you're considering to buy the newer model. It comes in many colors. There would definitely be a color that suits you. This device comes in an aluminum body, making it feel cool to the touch. When in my pocket, I could hardly feel its presence. It would definitely make it as a portable device. I won't recommend doing intensive work here due to the 1GB of RAM coupled with the outdated A8 chip. Performance is really lacking behind. For the 7th generation, it has an improved A10 Fusion chip with more RAM, which does enhance the gaming experience. It does get a little hot after playing intensive games, but it isn't to the extent where it is uncomfortable to hold thanks to the aluminum body. After watching videos for an hour, battery life can easily drop from 100% to 60%. The thinness of this iPod is definitely the reason for low battery life. I would recommend that you turn on airplane mode to save more battery as I've done so here. Wi-Fi signals on this iPod is great. It doesn't seem to lose connection while I'm watching videos. This could be due to the oblong Wi-Fi bar at the back of the device. The iPod Touch is an on-the-go device and endurance for playing music is superb. It can last me for a whole day playing music, even if it's blasting music at maximum loudness. In terms of loudness, the iPod Touch mono firing speaker is okay. It isn't as loud as the latest iPhones, but it'll be good for daily usage. The 4-inch LCD Retina display is one of the reasons why the iPod is relatively compact. Good for one-handed usage, the iPod is comfortable to hold in one hand. This device is extremely thin. It is even thinner than the old iPhone 6, that sometimes I'll feel that handling the iPod is quite uncomfortable. Now it comes to the cameras. The iPod cameras are not that great. Good for daily shots though. Exposure of some shots are not as good as the newer phones, partly due to the smaller camera aperture, which makes it unable to capture more light. The rear camera doesn't come with OIS, so you will need steady hands to take a picture. Speaking of newer products, the iPod Touch doesn't come with a fingerprint scanner. It comes with the home button with the square in the middle of the home button, signifying that the home button does not come with a fingerprint scanner. I guess the omission of the fingerprint scanner is to save some cost and space to the device, maintaining its sleekness and price. Or it could be just Apple reusing the previous generation design on the new product. It was previously rumored that the newer iPod Touch might come with a bigger display so as to suit the trends of the previous generations. Usually, The iPod would follow the newer iPhone design, making it more attractive by generation. I guess that the design remains at 4 inches, partly due to the lack of sales of the iPod models. As you can see, the other iPod models have been discontinued. Only the iPod Touch model seemed to continue selling, but not as much as before. They are continued more towards selling to parents who would give their children iPod Touches, as they might think that their children are not ready to own iPhones yet. The iPod Touch 7th generation is the exact same device as the 6th and 5th generation iPod Touches, just that they have different chipsets and more RAM, with the 5th generation model having a weaker camera. In terms of software, the iPod that still receives iOS updates is the 7th generation model. My current iPod Touch 6th generation is stuck at iOS 12. It doesn't even have a proper built-in battery percentage indicator. This shows how much software support Apple gives the iPod. Having an older chipset built in is a bad idea, as it limits the capabilities that a device can have, although it does help to lower the price of the device in total. So, should you buy the iPod Touch? My advice is no, unless you really want to buy it for someone who isn't ready to own a real smartphone yet. Nowadays, iPhones can accomplish all the things that an iPod can, which makes owning an iPod redundant. The iPod Touch costs 299 Sing dollars here in Singapore for just 32GB of storage. For more storage, it will cost a lot more, for up to 600 Sing dollars for the 256GB model, making it closer to the mid-range segment of Android smartphones in the market. It now becomes harder to justify getting an iPod Touch today. Unless you are a developer who wants to test apps for iOS and doesn't currently own an iPhone, then the iPod Touch would be for you. It is an entry-level iOS device which puts it below the iPad. The latest 7th Gen iPod Touch has an Apple A10 Fusion chip with more RAM than this year's 6th generation model. It would still get a few more years of iOS updates, but not as long as iOS with newer chipsets. For many, iPod Touch was a gateway to the Apple ecosystem, as they didn't want to spend that much just to get an iPhone. In terms of the Apple ecosystem, the iPod Touch would be a great device for children whose family all uses iPhones. Children can use their iMessage or FaceTime to communicate with their parents through a Wi-Fi network connection without having to spend money on a SIM card. There is also parental controls where parents can limit their children's screen time. The Apple ecosystem makes the iPod Touch more viable as a device to buy for their child so that they can monitor on their child. iPods used to be a device for listening to music until smartphones came about. Smartphones have every feature. Then the iPod Touch came in, which allowed users to enter the iOS world, still being able to store music, play games, and watch videos. With more storage on board available on current smartphones, exceptional battery life, iPod Touch seemed to lose its stand and no longer seemed relevant in the market. So, what do you think of the iPod Touch? Do you still want to buy it? Do you use it today? Let me know in the comment section below. Please share and subscribe, as your support will allow me to create more videos like this. See you in the next video. Bye!